enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. This memorial now bears the names of 53 law enforcement officers who gave their lives protecting the citizen and fellow officers of Orange County. In May 2023, a 54th bronze plaque will be added to this list, honoring Huntington Beach police officer Nicholas Miller. You'll remember in June of 2020, following the George Floyd protests, an additional 183 memorials, statues, and historical landmarks were torn down, vandalized, or purposely removed. Out of the 183 monuments,
our city better place for all people and also for the future generation to be here. So last month I had a chance to meet 5 Westminster police officers at the coffee shop, and they are very friendly. One of them asked me, "Do you run for election?" I said, "No." "I know will be mayor." I said, "Yes." "Will you support Tayo?" I said, "No." They kept asking why. I told them because Mr. Tayo has a reputation that he make better reputation to our city. He called our city Westminster is officially now a Ocean City. Shame on you when you said so in your media, social media. So we have to apologize to the people if you want to run as the city mayor, or you want to get a vote from me. Okay? So remember that we have to apologize to people on your behalf, because Westminster City is the city of every people, of many activities, and not only of you. You are both people. You escaped Ho Chi Minh City, and now you want to go into Ho Chi Minh City to have a bomb or apple. So that's part of it. And you see, months ago, I see a leaflet, a letter from Kim Lee Ho. This is the one I showed. He said, "Re-elect Kim Lee Ho, Mayor of Westminster." Did you use the word re-elect? That means you are mayor. So you try to cheat people that you are mayor and you want the people re-electing you. That's bad. You always brag that you are the best English speaking of Vietnamese community. But with this one, you use the wrong word, re-elect. Only the kindergarten they might not understand. But most of the American people or all the other people will know that you are trying to cheat people. You try to make people think that you are the mayor of city of Westminster and re-electing you. Shame on city council for 6 years in that position. I used to have to be in that position, but now I hate to raise my voice that you are not fit to be a mayor. And in the future, your picture may not be fit in that empty space over there because of what? Dishonest, not honest, and not trustworthy. 6 months ago, you, Tidal, and Mr. Menzo tried to tell people not to vote for mayor position. And now you and Tidal try to run for a mayor. Shameful. When you make the wrong decision like that, it costs the city $400,000 to put it on the ballot and make a lot of people worry about our city. So I tell you that you are responsible to reimburse the city of the $400,000 to the city budget. Otherwise, you or your son and daughter will not have a chance to come to this city as an officer. Thank you for your concern.
The next speaker is Ms. Media.
Good evening, everyone. Council members. We didn't have a translator here tonight, so I guess I'll to speak for myself here tonight. Sorry if I'm ranting, because I didn't have time to write anything down. So I'll start with Mayor Chi Ta and Councilmember Nguyen. I guess the campaign is heating up, and I saw you two go on the Vietnamese media, just like Councilmember Tidal and Councilmember Kimberly Ho have accused you correctly. When you guys are using the Vietnamese language, Vietnamese media to mislead the Vietnamese people, to lie to them, when you blatantly tell them that there's no way Westminster is going to go bankrupt, and you two know that is a total lie. It's the city, the staff, the police chief, everybody has told you guys, presented you guys the facts, and I said that's facts, not my opinion, not something that people make up. That's a fact. The city will go bankrupt if, I guess it's Measure Y, right? Did not and would not be approved by the residents of the city. So I can understand if you guys tell us why, blame it on someone else, explain to us like, oh, it's because it's the COVID, because of the former mayors, or whatever the reason. But you cannot go on media and tell the people that we are doing okay, and there's no way that Westminster is going or facing bankruptcy. You even had the gall to tell people that we make it up, to blame you guys, to create chaos, to scare people. And you know that's not true. And like I said, you are using henchmen. And I have proof that thugs, well, not really criminals. I don't know how the police, the chief, or even the Tidal police officer would categorize Nam Quang. But we have record showing that his wife has asked the court to issue a restraining order against him. Hey, you endorsed him, so I have the right to tell you. You're endorsing a crook, and that's not right, because you're trying to get the majority back, right? Is that more important than having a decent... I'm talking about a future council member.
Issue from someone else here.
I would take this as criticism.
No,
Yeah.
he's more than welcome to criticize me, but I mean, he criticized
I am criticizing you
personally.
and the one that you endorsed to be our council member, future council member. A crook.
Yeah, it's permissible, I would say.
And that's totally irresponsible, self-serving. You care more about your future, your power. You want to get the majority back, right? So you're willing to endorse a guy who put a gun to his wife's head, and the judge issued a restraining order against him. You knew that, and you still endorse him? What kind of person are you? Are you willing to put a criminal, a thug, to represent us? Just to be your henchman, to keep your power intact in this council? I'm very disappointed. And Vice Mayor Menzel, you know I've been criticizing them. I apologize for us electing the people that representing us, the Vietnamese community. But that doesn't mean that I apologize for being here. I apologize for being a Vietnamese. I apologize for being part of this community. You are an immigrant as well. So you should know that we are a diverse city. Diversity is our identity. And what's Little Saigon is our future. So I will not apologize for us, and I will stand up against racists. So I hope you will protect your constituents, but not the racists that loud doesn't feel right.
Hands up. Thank you. The next speaker is Peter William.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Peter Whittingham, appearing tonight on behalf of the Orange County Auto Dealers Association, and it's a pleasure to speak with you briefly regarding item 5.3 on your agenda this evening, which deals with a renewal of the resident incentive program for the auto dealers. That program initially was adopted prior to the adoption and approval of the sales tax, the original 1 cent sales tax in the city. The program ran for 5 years with a $3 million cap. That was not met, in fact, because, frankly, 2 years ago, we saw an unprecedented situation, and whereas auto dealers typically had 300 to 400 cars in a lot, they were down to 30. The program, though, was overwhelmingly successful, and one of the things I'll share is we've done polling that shows that roughly a third of residents understand that where they buy their car does not determine, the sales tax is not determined, it's where it's registered. So, unfortunately, when folks are out on the market for a new car and they say, oh gosh, that sales tax is 9.25 or 9.5 here, etc., I can go next door to Huntington Beach Road and have you buy that car. Obviously, disadvantaging the auto dealers you have here. You have 4 certified auto dealers here in Westminster. And so, for this reason, in other cities that have adopted sales tax increases, Santa Ana, Garden Grove, Placentia, the like, similar programs have been implemented and have been very successful, been very well received. So we're here tonight to encourage you to renew this program. Obviously, the item tonight is to get council direction on that. We would very much appreciate the opportunity to have this come back to your council for its approval prior to the election, hopefully at one of your meetings in October, to implement and know what the specifics of the program will be going into the election. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but we greatly appreciate the opportunity to have your consideration this evening. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mayor. And now we'll switch over to the in-Zoom participants. We did have a Dutch request by Dan Corella. And you may begin speaking.
Good evening. Councilman Doe, during the last city council meeting, I was offended that you allowed discourteous tirade directed at your fellow council members. I think it was uncalled for and unnecessary. Earlier, however, your support for Westminster Park as a monument site got my attention. Mayor Tsai, I think, can verify that for the entirety of his position as mayor, Westminster Park has been my personal priority. For 12 years, I've visited Westminster Park twice a day, every day. Every morning I walk my little dog in the circuit covering the eastern half of the park, and I finish a daily neighborhood bike ride on a path through the park on my way home. I pick up trash, report graffiti, and also report any maintenance problems such as failure of the park flagging system a number of months ago. Now, there are roughly 40,000 non-Vietnamese residents of this city who have no idea a Quang Tri monument exists, and if they did, would have no meaning. I commend the council for consistently keeping this fact in mind as they struggle with the dilemma. I'm also deeply impressed with the devotion and sincerity of the Monuments Committee. I personally became much more knowledgeable after a personal meeting with the committee arranged by Councilwoman Ho. I first heard of the monument from Christy Lamb, the director of the Challenger Softball League, the league for physically challenged youngsters. She was very concerned because the original suggested monument site was near Hazard Street, close to both the new children's play area as well as the softball field used by her league. That site never should have been considered because of the monument's potentially negative effect on traffic flow. In my attempt to be fair and open-minded, I met with one of the Monument Committee members who lives several blocks from the park. We examined 2 park sites which would not take up park recreational area. Neither were acceptable, one because of the site's proximity to a neighbor's window, and the other because of the close proximity of the restrooms, and also because 2 of the park's homeless encampments were nearby. Then Councilman Doe came one part of your tirade with which I could really agree, the necessity to find out what the nearby residents actually felt about Westminster Park being the site of a monument. Over a 3 to 4 day period, I conducted my own survey. I talked to 12 people who live within 2 blocks of the park and showed them a picture of the monument. 4 were Vietnamese Americans, 4 were Hispanic Americans, and 4 were Caucasian Americans. The result, 11 no's and 1 maybe. The maybe came from the older leader of the Buddhist Boy Scout troop who meets every Sunday morning next to the former Buddhist monks' residence at the southeast tip of the park. His comment was, maybe the monument could be placed in the northeast section of the park. It is true that section does not have any recreational activity at the present time, but there is a large tree in that northeast corner. That tree provides shade and seclusion, so that often transients go there to sleep or drink beer, and occasionally heterosexual couples go there and engage in intimate physical relations. Their discarded condoms often end up in plain sight on the ground, rather than this trash can nearby. Also, the block wall next to the park's northeast opening is a frequent source of graffiti, 12 times in the past couple of years. A growing number of homeless who have moved in and out of the area next to the restroom's east wall and the softball field dugouts have created a different park environment. That environment is so different from just a year ago, and it has created an atmosphere that makes my wife unwilling to walk or bike in the park alone. These problems are not always apparent to the occasional visitor, but they are there and they are growing daily. I really question whether this is the place for either a monument or monument visitors. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker with her hand raised is Amy Walsh. You may begin speaking.
Hi, I know I've said this in the past, but I'd really like for the public not to be interrupted when they're speaking. It's just disrespect, just plain disrespect. And I'd also like to talk about the fact that I'm not sure who puts on the not the production, but I guess at this point it is the production. When people are speaking, people are getting muted. It's cutting people off. when everybody that was there was clapping for the gentleman that was retiring earlier, the clapping was cut off. I mean, this happens constantly. And, I mean, it would have been nice to hear, the audience and whoever else clapping for the gentleman that was retiring. This really needs to stop. Whoever is doing this, the channel that does this, our local cable, whatever, and they really need to take a little bit more care of it. And one last thing that I wanted to speak on, people have already talked tonight about the fact that the council has, been a little rude to our different speakers, to people in the audience, and that kind of thing. And I think people need to remember, as people, I mean council members, need to remember that we, the public, have dealt with so much in regards to you being on council. And the disrespect that you guys clearly give. There are a few more than others, but I'm not going to point anyone out, if I really want to. Like Terry had said earlier with the bathroom breaks and the this and that, not, paying attention to people's phones, paying attention to talking to the person next to you. It's just, I felt like I'm in a high school classroom. I really feel like when people are talking up here, you need to be paying attention. And I'm pretty sure that at least 2 or 3 of you guys aren't right now. And I don't even see you. So there's that. People keep saying, do better, do better. Just do better. That's all anyone's asking for. And it's not even a lot, considering that you guys are council members of a city. It's not a lot to ask. This is like, what, twice a month? You do this twice a month, you're getting paid for it. You're getting dinner probably at these meetings, because I know you did on the school board. I mean, suck it up while you're there, sweet cheeks. Pay attention. Do your job. Read the documents that are given to you. Go over the council agenda. I know it's crazy. I know. But I know that you can do it. You're all qualified adults. And the one thing that I really want to roll home to people is the fact that we see your faces. And the rolling of the eyes, the mumbling under, just know that you might think your mic isn't hot, but we can hear the little comments. That's all I have to say.
The next speaker is Camilla Overbeek. You may begin.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Camilla Overbeek, resident of Westminster. I'd just like to address item 5.3. I hope that we can put this rebate program on the back burner. It's unfair to continue such a program when residents aren't even sure our city will avoid bankruptcy. I think we have far bigger pressing issues. And quite frankly, I don't give a damn that we didn't meet the $3 million cap. Taxpayers are not responsible for ensuring that dealerships keep their sales up. If the program works so well, let the dealerships work together to provide buyer incentives. But don't you dare ask taxpayers to do it. I sincerely hope that this council will do the right thing. Put the program on the back burner until the financial health of this city is considered. We don't have the funds for this, and this is a program that is cutting the fat from a budget because we don't have the money. Stop allowing for them to bully you, or stop returning the favors. Residents don't owe you shit. Do better for us.
Mayor, that concludes any speakers with their hands up on Zoom at this time.
All right, so I'd like to close order communication. Next, we have consent calendar. All matter listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and may be approved by a single motion, followed by roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of this item unless member of the City Council or staff request that specific item be removed from the consent calendar for separate action of this discussion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you, Councilmember Doe.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilmember Hall. Yes. Councilmember Nguyen.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Monzo.
Yes.
Mayor Top.
Yes.
Motion carries to approve the consent calendar in its entirety.
All right. Next, item 5.1, Central Cities Navigation Center and preliminary funding request, budget, and initial startup cost. Startup cost.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the community. I'm excited to bring this item back tonight. So, as I mentioned, a couple of months ago, the city entered into a preliminary memorandum of understanding with the cities of Garden Grove and Fountain Valley to develop a navigation center. So, at this juncture, a location has been selected, and the city of Garden Grove, on a unanimous 7-0 vote, excuse me, I'm a little excited about this, but they've actually moved forward with a purchase and sale agreement, which now puts this property into escrow. And so if my assistant manager Adolfo can bring up what this property looks like. So this is not it. So as this council has, in the last year and beyond that, this council has made, trying to deal with our homelessness situation, and put it as a priority over time.
City manager can't see.
Oh. So homelessness is one of those issues that has developed, at the local level, in which, at the local level, we are limited in our resources when it comes to staffing and, of course, services that we can provide. That much is very clear. And one of the things that this council has discussed over time is the consideration of partnership. This was brought up last year and prior to that as well. In terms of going to partnership with certain cities. And so this location is actually in Garden Grove, about 13871 Street. The major cross streets are Westminster and New Hope. So that's between Euclid and Harbor. It is in an industrial area that's considered within their overlay zone for a shelter. And so it's currently an escrow at a purchase price of $5.6 million. The square footage of the site is 18,166 square feet, with the actual structure measuring 11,363 square feet. The building was constructed in 1964. It is an industrial warehouse, and it's also, and you can't tell from the photos, but inside the photo, a lot of renovations have already been done. So it is very much, new structure on the inside. So the Navigation Center would have 85 beds and would provide support services and amenities. This is the draft schematic of what this shelter would look like. So as you drive up into the entryway, so you see down below is parking. And then the entrance, so there's where the main gate is, and there's an entry point where there's check-in, a metal detector, rooms for client services, and so the intent is that at some point we'll have an RFP put out for a provider to provide services. Those services would include like one-on-one case management, mental health stabilization services and resources, outpatient health services, employment assistance and job training, life skills, transportation, etc. As far as the living quarters, you would have men's, women's, and couples dorms and restrooms. You'd have a warming kitchen, a laundry room, dining and outdoor lounge areas. There is a dog walk area as well. That's toward the bottom of this. But right now you can see there's that dog room. There's that dog room, that corner, outdoor lounge. Outdoor lounge, client area. This is a general idea of what this would look like. And so Westminster would be anticipated to have 22 beds out of the 85. And then Fountain Valley would have, I believe it's 13. Garden Grove is 50. And that's just based on some of the metrics. They're based on the number of homeless from the point in time count, but also based on population. Both percentages came out to pretty much numbers in those ranges. So at this time, in terms of our share, we have preliminary estimates of what the cost would be for startup, which includes tenant improvements and then of course furniture. And so the costs are, so we're asking for a $4 million allocation that would come from general fund and then be reimbursed through ARPA funds. The County of Orange has also provided a letter that they will commit $11.3 million for the project, but that would include $5.3 million toward tenant improvements and then $625,000 annually toward ongoing operations and maintenance. So with the county's support, Westminster's total share of cost is approximately $7.1 million. That does include the city's portion of the purchase price, the startup costs, tenant improvements, and together with the anticipated operations and maintenance costs over a 10-year period. And that is a $495,000 estimate for annual operation costs. So again, staff requesting City Council authorize the allocation of $4 million from general fund reserves to a newly created account for the Navigation Center. And this amount would again be reimbursed through the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA. Any amount that would be left over would help cover any anticipated expenses or operations and maintenance. And then, of course, as part of outreach efforts on our part, as a city, we'll be having a workshop for the public, a community meeting on, again, Monday, October 10th at 6 p.m. in the East-West Room to just provide an overview of what a navigation center is from true experts that are in that field. We'll also have our PD staff who will be out there as well to answer questions and provide the public with some information as to what services they're providing and what they're doing now, to help with the homelessness efforts that we have right now. And so a more extensive memorandum of understanding among the 3 cities is currently being drafted, and that will essentially, put in legal parameters and discuss things about ownership, operation, access, funding. Just a little bit more detail as opposed to what we previously had, because of course that is a question as to what some of our rights would be, considering this property is in Garden Grove, but we're providing funding for it as well. So those will be spelled out in the MOU, and then of course presented to this council at a later date. With that, I'm available for any questions.
We want to thank City Manager for your presentation. I am impressed. This is amazing. This is an excellent item. I think this is a really good project, and it's a great opportunity. It's a good partnership between 3 cities on the issue of homelessness. So this is a really, really good project,
Thank you for that detailed presentation and all the hard work that you've been putting in it yourself and your team of Adolfo as well. So this is, you heard what the community has been wanting, you heard the council's been wanting, so I want to thank you guys for, taking that leadership and really dragging this forward. And I know we had some other things fall through and you just kept going and kept persevering and moving forward, so thank you for that. And then you're going to bring back also an MOU equity, what that is and how that's going to work out. And then also at a later time, you would be looking at a service provider that will come back to us.
So there would be an RFP that would be put out for a service provider, and that would, that would go through the same process of council approval, et cetera, among the cities. As far as the MOU goes, same thing. I will say Russ Hildebrand, who is with Jones and Mayer, he's the lead on the draft MOU, and he worked on the MOU for the Placentia shelter, so he does have considerable experience with navigation stuff.
Well, thank you. I'm excited about this project. Like the mayor said, this is something that we've all wanted, and give our police department the tools that they need to really help the homeless community. For all these years, our HLOs and going back when we had students, they're fighting every day for a bed if an individual asks for it. And sometimes that bed wasn't there, and that could have been the day, the night that person wanted to turn their life around, and it's pretty disheartening if it wasn't available. So this is something that we needed for a long time, and thank you for that. And with that, I want to make a motion to approve as recommended.
Second.
I'd like to make
And I do have a question.
I do too.
There's no doubt that this is a great achievement from staff getting the navigation center moving forward. But I do have one question for either staff or for the PD. Our purpose is to bring the homelessness to the navigation center and help them get their feedback. And of course, we have to feed them on the meal, have a daily meal for them. And I understand there are programs to get them back on, back. But then for those who are going there or confused going there or going there and then they decided not to stay and come out again, I know that the law will not allow them to allow us to do anything with the homelessness unless we have the navigation center. And now the navigation center is in place. What are we going to deal with those people if they kept going in and coming out, going in and coming out, or refusable?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. To answer that question, if we have an available bed for a homeless individual and they are sleeping, just for example, in a public park, and it's after hours, maybe there's a sport event with children. Right now, we can't cite or arrest that person for camping or sleeping in the park. If we offer that person another place to sleep, as in the shelter option, and the person says, nope, I don't want to, I want to sleep right in the middle of this soccer field. Now we actually do have the authority to cite or arrest that individual. And that's case law that we have to offer a viable option for the person to be able to sleep in, which would be a shelter, another bed, for them to call home that evening or longer. If that answers the question.
Yeah, that answers part of the question. Let's say that they said, oh, okay, I agree to go there. But then the next day they come out and, now again, they do things that we don't want them to do, then we come back. Will you send them back again? Or, by the way, when you said you have to direct the resident, then where are we going to put, where are we going to put the house? Are we going to bring it to the navigation center, or what? We are going to put it in temporary?
So the navigation center would not be used to incarcerate anyone. If the person refuses to move, then we can cite them, and if they still go, oh, thanks for the citation, I'm not going anywhere, I'm going to lay back down on the 50-yard line here, then we can actually physically arrest them and bring them to our jail.
Now, the navigation center is not meant to be, it's not meant to be long-term housing, so there are limitations to how long they can stay there anyway, which I believe is 60 days off the top of my head. But, there are services that are there are strict rules that are there. And so, again, this is meant for people who want to come in and get services so that they can transition.
Can you mention a few services?
Yeah, no, so some of the services that, some of the services that were listed, so outpatient health services, transportation, case management, an area for them to store their personal belongings, so lockers outdoors, again, mental health and stabilization services and resources, substance abuse counseling, life skills development, job training. And so again, a provider that's coming in there will be there, they'll be staffed there 24 hours a day, and they'll provide these services, for those that are staying there. And the expectation is that they use these services. That's the point of coming to this type of a center, is to help them transition into something else. But it's not meant for them to be there long term.
Thank you.
And if I may clarify too, just the reasoning behind this is that there was a court decision, and the court decision essentially holds that cities can't criminalize people just because they're homeless. The status of being without a home. So really what it puts on the city and all the cities in Orange County, LA, we have this obligation to have that opportunity for them to get off the street. And that's what we're trying to do with this navigation center, is provide them, this is not in any way an incarceration type of thing. This is more an opportunity for them to get off the street. They have to willingly go there, and once they get there, we partner with the county to offer them all the services that hopefully they agree to, and there are many good success stories. If the person refuses, at that point now we've offered them a bed, and they're in violation of our anti-camping ordinance, and we can then criminally enforce if they continue to refuse. That's essentially the reasoning behind it. We have to do our part, and then the burden is then on them.
Okay. Okay. I just find that the numbers don't add up, and I think this is awfully expensive. So I'm just asking. So first of all, okay. So tell me if I'm correct. So I have 11.3 million dedicated by the county and then we've got 4 million. I assume that would be for each city times 3.
So it's the share cost. I'll see if I can pull it up, and it's actually dropped out, which is why it's not. Yeah, it's not just full disclosure.
So what's that?
So the 4 million for us is the purchase. It's part of the purchase price. It's the estimate. It's a little bit. I would say it's a little bit higher than what the lit actually is. Again, that's because we don't have exact costs until things start getting built. But that's part of
we're asking for from each city.
No. So we are asking for the allocation of 4 million to cover our portion of the purchase price, tenant improvements, and then the furniture and equipment that will get purchased, or that will be purchased.
So what are the other two?
So the other two are.
More or less?
It's by share.
It's by proportion. So the Garden Grove is
Then it would be more.
close to 5,000
1.2?
For the purchase.
1.2?
You set aside, we're asking for the 4 million. The current draft number is 2.9. That's the way the total is rolling right now. But they're in draft form, we're still working through them.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, okay, so my estimate would be, okay, 20 million. So you have the county putting in 11.3. You've got the 3 cities putting in, well, whether it be for renovations or for furniture, equipment or whatever, then I'm going to estimate it to be about 20 million. So if you divide that into, is there any other startup?
So, yeah, so,
any other startup costs?
No, so as far as the program, total program costs, and this is if the county, like, again, with the county, right? So you have due diligence, administration, acquisition, tenant improvement, and then of course, furniture and equipment. So our share ends up being, technically, based on the estimate right now, it's only about 2.2 million. We're asking for 4 on the allocation number 1, part of the ARPA funding. It's a one-time deal. We do have monies in our federal funds for annual ongoing costs, but we're asking for the 4 just as a cushion.
I understand.
Yeah.
So I'm going to add 2.2. So that's like, you mentioned 5 for Garden Grove, 1.2 Fountain Valley, 4 for 2.2 for us, right? So I'm not going to do 4. I'm going to use 2.2, so that's 8.4.
So it's an estimate of about 4.9 for Garden Grove, 1.3 for Fountain Valley. So based on the number of beds, we're a little less than half of Garden Grove, and then Fountain Valley is about half of ours, and that's just proportion based on the number of beds.
Okay, so you add 11.3. Let's just put all of our money in a pot. 11.3 plus 8.4, 8.5, whatever. So it comes to about 19.7, so that's 20 million. So then you take 20 million, you divide that into 85 beds. Okay, I'm doing this estimate, and it's like $235,000 per bed. And we are taking 20 beds. Okay, so what I'm just not adding up in my mind is where our share is 20 beds out of the 85, and we have 160 homeless. We have 20 beds. Okay, you tell me, you explain to me your strategy. So you're gonna, and then each one will stay for 60 days, correct? And this is short-term stay, not long-term stay. It's a short-term solution. So, isn't this quite a lot? It's like 200 and, okay, then you've got on top of that, $625,000 of operations and management costs per year, which I think is okay, Well, I thought if the county gives us 11.3 million, that should even pay for the building. But, I mean, we're not owning the building. We don't own the building, Garden Grove owns the building.
Well, so the property, the title itself by Garden Grove is the property is in Garden Grove. There, as part of the MOU, there is an equity statement which states that after the 10-year period, if there was a sale of the property and there was equity, that would be divided proportionately.
Okay, that's really good. That's really good. That's what I want to fight for. But still, how do you justify $235,000 per bed? Because I have a problem.
That's really the cost of purchasing the building is one thing, and as we know, real estate is expensive right now. But really, the estimated cost on maintaining a person per day in the shelter is about $100 a day. So you've got to take the component of the cost of the building out of the picture, because we still need to building to have
Okay.
official. So
That's fine, but what I'm saying is that county is not paying 11.3 towards our building, are they? Are they allowing us to do that?
5.3 million of the county contribution is going towards the acquisition of the building.
Rồi, coi như Khải cũng xin chấm dứt chương trình nơi đây. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn trong những chương trình tới nha.
they're not, they can't purchase the bill. It's not going because then they would technically have ownership. So it's actually for.
Mình mới thấy có Nam Quan cũng mới đến thì mình cũng đã chào ra rồi. Thấy hiện giờ đang theo dõi có luật sư Nguyễn Quốc Lân. Thì mặc dù mình đã chỉ trích luật sư Nguyễn Quốc Lân rất là nhiều lần, nhưng mà mình cũng không ngại. Nếu mà luật sư Nguyễn Quốc Lân không ngại cứ việc cho người bắn tiếng với mình sẵn sàng làm chương trình để luật sư Nguyễn Quốc Lân có thể trình bày. Muốn đối luận, muốn tranh luận hay là muốn độc thoại gì cũng được, mình sẵn sàng, không có vấn đề gì hết. Tức là khi mà mình đóng vai, mình đội cái nón critics, tức là bình luận hay là phê bình chỉ trích, đấu tranh hoạt động gì thì mình sẽ phát biểu cái quan điểm của mình. Nhưng mà khi mà mình đội cái nón phóng viên, cái nón host, cái người chủ kênh, thì mình cũng cố gắng làm tròn cái vai trò của mình, tức là respectful, tức là hành xử một cách văn minh lịch sự, mình tôn trọng khách mời, chứ không có cái chuyện chèn ép hay là gài hay là làm khó hay là chơi mánh, chơi xỏ, chơi xấu gì hết. Thì nếu mà mình thấy luật sư Nguyễn Quốc Lân đang theo dõi chương trình thì mình sẵn sàng, mình làm chương trình để cho luật sư Nguyễn Quốc Lân có cơ hội phản biện một cách công khai là những gì mình nói là có phải là sự thật hay là vu khống. Rồi, cảm ơn luật sư Nguyễn Quốc Lân đã theo dõi và xin hẹn gặp lại các bạn trong những chương trình tới.